I don't know about you and where you live, but here, me, Zone 7B, Long Island, New York, the winters have been pretty wacky. And we've been having, honestly, pretty mild winters. I remember growing up as a kid that we would have like a ton of snow. Granted, maybe because it was shorter and smaller and stuff, but I just remember a ton of snow, it being wildly cold. And we haven't been getting that. In fact, the past couple of years, we've barely gotten any snow. Maybe we get one snowstorm. And if that, it's usually not that bad. And it's really not that cold. And in fact, last year was the first year we had a decently cold spell in the middle of January. But for the most part, it's actually been pretty warm. And now, while I wanted to film this video outside in the garden, it's just been way too windy these days. In fact, I don't think you'd be able to hear me with the wind whipping back and forth. It's crazy. But I wanted to talk about today 8 reasons why a mild winter is bad, or why warm winters are killing your garden. It's funny, as humans, we're like, oh, a warm winter is great, and it's kind of nice. Sometimes you don't have to wear all these crazy jackets, not crazy cold, your hands don't crack. There's a lot of reasons, but from a gardening, farming perspective, there's actually a lot of reasons why you actually kind of want that natural cold winter. And we're going to go through them today. I have a list right here. We're going to talk about them. I'd love to know your perspective, and I'd love to know where you live and what your experience has been too, because I know that there are plenty of places that you have been getting cold winters, and I just find that the weather's been really weird. Like, it's been getting warmer way faster, but it's also been pretty warm throughout the winter, and then we get these random frosts, and it's just been weird. So I want to talk about it really quick. The first is the pests explode the following year. I'm a hunter. I love to hunt. And here on Long Island, the ticks have been insane because we haven't been getting these cold winters. The cold winters kill off the ticks. They kill off all, typically, pests. Not completely, but they reduce their populations. They reduce their eggs, the younger ticks, the baby ticks and stuff, or any bug for that matter, can't necessarily survive the cold weather, and the mature ones, there might not be as much food for them. There's a lot of reasons. But tick populations explode, flea populations explode, mosquitoes have been crazy here on Long Island, and cold weather kills those. Even things now outside of that, like with the garden, aphids, beetles like the Japanese beetle, lanternflies, all those things, the cold weather reduces those numbers. Even following with pests in general, rodents, the younger animals, they can't survive, or it messes with if it's too warm, they produce more because they don't necessarily need to go into hibernation, so they can focus more on reproduction, so they produce more. It's been insane. It's crazy. That's number one. Warm winters creates more pest pressure all around, whether it be rats, whether it be aphids, whether it be ticks, whether it be mosquitoes. There's more pests next year. The second is more plant diseases survive. So whether it be tomato blight, whether it be powdery mildew, whether it be rust on the trees, the cold weather helps reset those things and helps prevent them from either starting earlier, because sometimes it doesn't destroy it. And again, diseases have been around forever, but it helps wipe them out a little bit. In fact, I was just talking to one of the farmers at my farmer's market, and he was saying, he's like, I actually don't mind a cold winter because, and this is going to go into the next one actually, it helps a lot. A lot of these plants sometimes actually like it, but also it keeps things healthier. It's just a natural thing that the way God designed things, it's the way it was supposed to be. Let's go into this third one. Worse fruit harvests. This is interesting. You'd think, oh, we actually want warmer weather because it helps with the plants that, for example, the apple trees produce better, maybe because they can start earlier, they can get more fruit. It's actually the opposite. A lot of fruit trees like apples, peaches, pears, plums, cherries, they all require a certain amount of what they call chill hours, which is a certain hours under the 45 degrees. If you don't get that, you don't totally reach that. Essentially, they don't go into the proper dormancy. They call it an incomplete dormancy. And therefore, it results in things like poor bloom, weakening pollination, smaller fruit, and less fruit. And it increases their susceptibility to diseases. So I found that really interesting, that you would think that they would just, for example, like even just almost like overwintering some peppers and stuff. You think, oh, you want them, they'll just be stronger next year, but it's not the case. It just, they actually require that dormancy to be stronger. It's kind of like sleep. Either less sleep. If you don't get enough sleep, you're kind of shot the next day. If these trees and plants don't get enough dormant time off, essentially, just like chickens stop producing for a little, they don't produce as well in the future. Number 4 is we kind of started it earlier with the pests in general, like the rodents and stuff. But number 4 is rodent and predator pressure. More rats, more mice, more squirrels, more possums, more raccoons, because they all stay highly active. There's food available because the foliage and stuff hasn't died. They don't have to go into not necessarily hibernation, but they don't have to conserve as much energy because it's not as cold. So that when it's cold, they conserve energy. They don't move around as much. So therefore but now they reproduce a lot more. So there's a lot more predator pressure, is what we'll say, which messes with a lot of things. If you have chickens, it messes with the coops. It messes with your gardens. They dig things up. They eat your plants. They get into your pantries, and if you have other animals, they get into your food, the food storage. So cold deep freezes naturally prevent them, suppresses them. I found really interesting. Number 5 is warm winters increase frost risk problems. And what that means is, if you have a warm January, the fruits, all this stuff, like the trees think, oh, hey, we're out of hibernation. They're not, though. But if you have 50, 60 degrees for a couple of weeks in the middle of the winter, and then all of a sudden you get a random frost in March or April, depending where you are, it totally messes with the trees. So they think, oh, hey, it's spring in the middle of January. It's not. And then they get this random frost, and then it kills those buds, and then it slows things. It just, they bud too early, which I thought was really, really, really interesting. So it confuses them. They get all jacked up. Number 6 is a soil reset. They don't get the ground doesn't get a natural soil reset. If you think about it, when water freezes, it expands, and then when it defrosts, then that expanded. That's why your driveway cracks or the road cracks, because water is getting in there and expanding it. That's what's happening in the soil, actually, which is good, because it without these freeze and thaw cycles, you get things like soil compaction. Aeration is worse. When water gets in there and expands, it creates more aeration. It creates less soil compaction. It doesn't break when it helps break down when the water gets in there, and it freezes and defrosts. The organic matter breaks down better. The larvae in there overwinter because they're not getting frozen and killed and all this stuff. There's less of a soil recess. You actually want, and this next one actually is again with kind of what I was talking with this farmer, and this kind of what inspired this topic from my farmer's market. Kind of going into the next one is a water table and ecosystem. Talking about the water table, milder winters means less snow typically, and less snow means less water in the ground. So he was like, I actually would, if we're going to have a cold winter, he's like, I'd really actually like some snow, because he says the colder the winter and the more snow we get, typically the better harvest we get in the fall, the spring and the summer next year. Because what's happening is all that water, all that snow is going into the ground, feeding the trees, feeding the microbiomes, feeding the organic, helping compost that organic matter. It leads to like drier summer, like drier soil in the summer, more stressed trees. If you have berries and bushes and fruit trees, it just then if you're even not thinking just ecosystems, it leads to less water in ponds and less water in streams and all that, man. It's all an ecosystem, and it's really, really interesting to see how it affects it. And again, as humans, we're like, oh, cool, I don't have to wear my winter jacket for 15 years. But it actually messes with the system, and we actually, as much as it sucks, it's actually, as a farmer, the better thing. So a good snow melt is actually critical for hydrating the soil, hydrating the ground. The last one we'll talk about is kind of a bonus one. Not everybody deals with this, but if you are into tapping maple trees, maple syrup, maple sap production requires cold nights and warm days. And if you're not having those cold nights, it's not working properly. The sap doesn't run as consistently, and your yield for maple trees collapses. Very, very interesting. This is a little bonus. But so, as somebody that's like, oh, cool, I really don't really love the cold. To some degree, I want to encourage you to embrace it. And when you're frustrated that it's been cold, you have to wear your jacket or it's freezing, say, you know what, I'm grateful for this because it's actually going to make my farming, my garden better next year. So that's what I have for you today. I'd love to know your perspective. Leave a comment down below. Thanks so much for watching, and if you want more content like this, let me know.